Family, we're continuing our reading of the brilliant Federalist Papers, written by Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. I'm telling you, this book is very valuable for political scientists, and if you're going to write it on a college app, they might ask you a question. They have the Common App, but they might ask you something in particular about what kind of books do you read, what do you do. And I am going to write that I did the Federalist Papers. That's how impressive I think this book is. So we're going to learn from it, and it might seem dry, but try to follow along and get it. Man, if you're trying to immigrate to the United States, or you come on a visa and you write somewhere that you've studied the Federalist Papers, I bet you there's going to be somebody who's going to be impressed by that and bump you up a few notches, right? Instead of telling a sob story, you show an ambition story. It'll, help you much better. Wow, I'm excited. This is going to be great. And yet, however, just these sentiments will be allowed to be. We have already sufficient indications that it will happen in this, as in all former cases of great national discussion. A torrent of angry and malignant passions will be let loose. To judge from the conduct of the opposite parties, we shall be led to conclude that they will mutually hope to evince the justness of their opinions, and to increase the number of their converts by the loudness of their declamations and by the bitterness of their invectives. You hear that language? He's saying, wow, that some people will try to convert people by being loud about what they declaring, or they'll be super bitter, and that will enliven people, they think. But he's saying, you should hope that there should be justness in their opinions, that they're not just getting opinions because they're being showboaty, right? An enlightened zeal for the energy and efficiency of government will be stigmatized as the offspring of a temper fond of despotic power. Wow. So enlightened zeal, wow. He's saying that if you have a bad temper that's leaning towards despotic power, you're stigmatizing the government and hostile to the principles of liberty. Look at this language. So eloquent. An over-scrupulous jealousy of danger to the rights of the people, which is more commonly the fault of the head than of the heart, will be represented as mere pretense and artifice, the stale bait for popularity at the expense of public good. Look at this. The stale bait of popularity at the expense of public good. The way they write. No politician today talks like this. It will be forgotten, on the one hand, that jealousy is the usual concomitant of violent love, and that the noble enthusiasm of liberty is too apt to be infected with a spirit of narrow and illiberal distrust. On the other hand, it will be equally forgotten that the vigor of government is essential to the security of liberty. Look at that. It will be forgotten that vigor of government is essential to the security and liberty. So our government, I don't think that they're vigor in securing our liberties. They're vigorous in taking them away through overuse of regulation and brutal force and militarizing the police. That, in the contemplation of a sound and well-informed judgment, their interests can never be separated. So we should have people in power that have sound and well judgment, who don't just want to have tabloidy clickbait articles by blue check marks on Twitter writing about them, right? You need to have people on your panels who are well informed and have sound judgment and aren't in a popularity contest for their own joy. Their interests can never be separated, and that a dangerous ambition more often lurks behind the spacious mask of zeal for the rights of the people than under the forbidding appearance of zeal for the firmness and efficiency of government. Wow. So he's saying that there's more dangerous ambition behind people who claim that they are trying to have the rights of the people employed well. But if you have the zeal for firmness in government and efficiency of government, that's more safe. Interesting point. You can tell it's very anti communism type of vibe going on right there. History will teach us that the former has been found a much more certain road to the introduction of despotism than the latter, and that of those men who have overturned the liberties of republics. The liberties of republics. So men who have overturned the liberties of republics are despotic. The greatest number have begun their career by paying an obsequious court to the people, commencing demagogues and ending tyrants. Interesting. So Fidel Castro wouldn't be on his buddy list. In the course of preceding observations, I have had an eye, my fellow citizens, to put you upon your guard against all attempts from whatever quarter to influence your decision in a matter of the utmost moment to your welfare, by an impressions other than those which may result from the evidence of truth. Wow, so don't look at the impressions, instead look at the evidence. You will not, no doubt, at the same time have collected from the general scope of them that they proceed from a source not unfriendly to the new Constitution. Yes, my countrymen, I own to you that, after having given it an attentive consideration, I am clearly of the opinion it is your interest to adopt it. I am convinced that this is the safest course for your liberty, your dignity, and your happiness. Look at the way he's talking. Liberty, dignity, and happiness. So he has in mind, he wants the people to be happy, to have liberty and dignity. How many politicians talk like that? They don't really, right? It's like, no. I'm going to say whatever I need to say to make my super corporate PAC donors happy. Go away, peasants. Instead, they give you these empty cliche platitudes. Even though this Alexander Hamilton is dead, I can still feel the power in his words. A man of deep conviction. I affect not reserves which I do not feel. Look at that. I affect not reserves which I do not feel. Today's politicians, they don't feel anything. It's all about the dollar. You tell that the dollar tells them what to feel. I will not amuse you with an appearance of deliberation when I have decided. I frankly acknowledge to you my convictions, and I will freely lay before you the reasons on which they are founded. Look at that. He will freely tell you why he has the reasons he does and what the basis of that is. So open transparency, right? No fiddling around with trickery. The consciousness of good intentions disdains ambiguity. Yes, you see? The consciousness of good intentions disdains ambiguity. So if a politician is being ambiguous, Gavin Newsom does that a lot. Nancy Pelosi does that a lot. Joe Biden can't even form coherent sentences. If they cannot be clear and direct with what they're going to do, and they leave it ambiguous, their consciousness is not on the good of the people or on the good of the efficiency of government. It's for their own self-aggrandizement of power acquisition and to keep their family ranking in that cash. It's a power type of masturbation type of thing. See, that's why it's so important to read these books, man. I shall not, however, multiply professions on this head. Do you see what he's saying? So he's not going to get multiple, like the rotating door of politics. Oh, you work for Monsanto, then you go work for this company, then you go work for that company, and you gain these conflicts of interests and these sort of ties that might be a conflict of interest type of scenario, right? My motives must remain in the depository of my own breast. My arguments will be open to all and may be judged by all. Look at that. So none of this secrecy crap, meeting behind closed doors, and hiding things. They shall at least be offered in a spirit which will not disgrace the cause of truth. Wow. I propose in a series of papers to discuss the following interesting particulars: the utility of the Union to your political prosperity, the insufficiency of the present Confederation to preserve that Union, the necessity of a government at least equally energetic with the one proposed to attainment of this object, the conformity of the proposed Constitution to the true principles of republican government, its analogy to your own state constitution, and lastly, the additional security which its adoption will afford to the preservation of that species of government, to liberty and property. In the progress of this discussion, I shall endeavor to give a satisfactory answer to all the objections which shall have made their appearance that may seem to have any claim to your attention. It may perhaps be thought superfluous to offer arguments to prove the utility of the Union, a point, no doubt, deeply engraved on the hearts of the great body of the people in every state on which it may be imagined, has no adversaries. But the fact is that we already hear it whispered in the private circles of those who oppose the new Constitution, that the 13 States are of too great extent for any general system, and that we must of necessity resort to separate confederacies of distinct proportions of the whole. This doctrine will in all probability be gradually propagated till it has votaries enough to countenance an open avowal of it, for nothing can be more evident to those who are able to take an enlarged view of the subject than the alternative of an adoption of the new Constitution or a dismemberment of the Union. It will, therefore, be of use to begin by examining the advantages of that union, the certain evils, and the probable dangers to which every state will be exposed from its dissolution. This shall accordingly constitute the subject of my next address. Publius. The dangers which every state faces when there's a dissolution of the Union. That's very relevant right now. Gosh, this is such a good book.